So I had told, pardon my runny nose, I had told in one of these previous videos about my mother where she lives and that her rent is being raised. My mother is kind of artsy hipster. She lives off Bedford Avenue in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. And she rented the apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. She rented it for $7,500 a month. And that was about 3 years ago. The rent was raised to $7,750. Both my mother and also myself were ideal tenants. I live in Sunset Park, but we have the same philosophy also because we're landlords. So there's a karmic thing. We don't want our tenants fucking with us. So we tend to, for the sake of the real estate, or respect of the real estate and our livelihood and so on, we tend to go with the flow. Landlord raises the rent, you pay it. And try to take care of all your problems on your own. Any maintenance that you can do on your own, try to do it on your own. There's no reason to deal with the landlord. Now, as you well know, the political environment in these environs, see, I don't even know what we are called now, or if there is a we, under whose jurisdiction falls any behavior at all, under whose jurisdiction. So they're raising her rent to $5,000. I mean, I slipped the punchline. Is that a thing in comedy? Yeah, I guess it is. You slip the punchline early. Trying to get there. Yeah, they want to raise it to 8,000, and we discussed it. I didn't tell Dale the exact number that I was getting. I was out for a walk, and I wrote back a text message. I did send it as a text message. Counter offer $5,000 a month. No lease. So my position is that if we don't know what legal regime that we fall under, and moreover that we can expect economic consequences and turbulence from the fact that we, if there is a we now, I mean, the erstwhile, or perhaps still, denizens of the United States of America, or erstwhile United States of America, the bailiwick, the jurisdiction, what is the law that we fall under? I mean, so you obviously rule of law isn't really even my argument, though, because personally, I obey all laws regardless of what government exists. I mean, the laws that you're supposed to obey that you learn based on your morality that you get from your parents and so on. That's the real content of the law. The starry heavens above me and the moral law within me, right, Professor Kant? So, I want to say the starry decisis, the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me and the starry decisis in the court system. It's somehow the starry decisis. So I counteroffered $5,000 because, well, I'm wary of the market conditions, not the law. I'm not trying to get. My mother's not interested in doing squatters' rights. No, we're investors. We're interested in the market. So you give us the current situation. Okay, here's a thought experiment for Warren Buffett. Where are you, Warren Buffett? We need to hear from you now. Warren Buffett, come on, where are you, dear? Oh, Professor Buffett, we need you now. And the newsletter was just released. Now, I mean, February, actually, I need to look that up, because if it was just released, he had to write something. The letters have been very tepid over the past years. Historically, Warren Buffett's letter to the shareholders every year is a shot in the arm for the United States of America, because he always has very interesting, sound, well-reasoned arguments in favor of the increasing prosperity and growth and overall, humanistic expansion of the United States. And we need to hear that kind of talk right about now. But, I mean, I've been saying that for at least since January 26th, 2021. I mean, what did I say? January 26th? Come on, Dimitri. January 6th, 2021. Yeah, we open up the letter to the shareholders. We can see. Well, let's see. February 2026. Dear shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway, waters have in the business environment have become a bit choppy for we have a psychotic man for president. Now, given the fact that over the decades, I, Warren Buffett, have said all those things about the United States and its stability and its prospects for a bright future and so on, given that I'm on record so vehemently making that kind of a case, well, here I am, Warren Buffett, to offer for you my insight, either about, now here's what is he going to say? Either it's, how did this happen? And it's really, or don't worry, it really isn't as bad as you think it is. But whereas once Buffett may have been, gone on record as a Democrat and been openly pro-labor, roughly, in his outlook, John Burr Williams, theory of investment value, treat your workers well, pay them well, carry no debt, things like that. Manage everything smart. Sustainable business over decades, where one's earnings growth is going to be measured on a basis of, at minimum, 3 decades of year-over-year earnings. 4 times 30. What's 4 times 30? 120 quarters. 120 quarters of economic performance is the sort of a view that you take if you're Warren Buffett and you're analyzing a prospective company that you would possibly invest in. At minimum, 30 years of earnings on record. At minimum, 15% earnings growth by quarter every year. In other words, first quarter of year 2 is 15% bigger earnings, profits than in year 1. $1.15. So in year 1, the company's earnings is $1. Year 2, the earnings is $1.15. Sorry if I'm making some stupid mathematical mistake, but it's pretty straightforward. 15% earnings growth. You make 15 cents more this year, first quarter, than you did last year. You still collect $1, but this year you also collected 15 cents more. So you collected $1.15. In year 3, you're going to collect 15% of $1.15. These are the bare minimum standards to count as even existing as a possible viable investment in the Buffett universe. He has to bend the rules now because he's using big blocks of capital and with billions. So the magnitude makes the need for the standards change a bit, and I think the only people that have anything to say about such things are literally Warren Buffett and probably about five other individuals that are, if they're still alive. I don't know if anybody actually thinks about running business anymore, or they just are thinking about crypto coins. So that Buffett, with those standards and writing letters to the shareholders, that it is the tendency of the political environment in the United States to be stable and accommodating to business such that there can be companies with 30 years plus of 15% earnings growth year over year. I mean, where else in the world can you find this kind of business operating environment where rule of law means the society is stable and intentionally streamlined anti-bureaucratic ethos means that opening and running business is as easy as anything? You know, I mean, I speak from experience. All the people I know are business people. We're Americans, right? I mean, running business is the easiest thing to do. You do it in your sleep as American. So yeah, I mean, voices like Warren Buffett that I might, as let's say a theoretician of capital, theoretician of entrepreneurial capital. It's Warren Buffett. I mean, he is a living Euclidean proof. He and Charles Munger, peace be upon him. We just lost Charles Munger. Charles Munger, Charles Mingus. Those are kind of similar names. So does the business environment change because rule of laws is no more? And if people like me who really have a bad conscience or about this kind of I'll instantly make skeptical arguments against myself. What mistake am I making? What am I missing here? This or that person's silence about X means what? Well, Warren Buffett is quite silent. Is he not? He's quite silent. What could he say? He probably doesn't have anything good to say, so he's staying silent. He probably set it up for himself that he doesn't speak critically in a very openly hostile or aggressive social political way. So I guess now's not the time that we want to hear Warren Buffett start panicking. See, that's a disadvantage of not being critical out the gates. If you don't make it clear that it's choppy weather every step of the way, that's it. But I don't know if it's so easy to disentangle his body English about the United States, the willfulness. He's got too much skin in the game. In retrospect, I mean, I tended always to take him seriously and take his writing and his thinking as objective, because it's as good a faith performance of objectivity as any. But hey, I want to know what Berkshire Hathaway is invested. How are they investing right now? Did I hear somewhere that they're all cash right now? So anyway, yeah, that I sent this counteroffer to my mother's landlords, who are sort of like these hot young Brazilian model types. These 25-year-old brothers. And so I gave counteroffer. They were raising the rent from $7,750 to $8,000. I gave counteroffer $5,000. Okay. When somebody gives you a counteroffer to your offer, and you're not already talking on the phone, maybe that's the time to talk on the phone. And so this is already a week ago. And then I just now talked to my mother, and she's like, "Oh, did you see what my landlords wrote?" She says that they wrote like a book. They just wrote pages and pages and pages. About what? About what? To who? About what? Their tenant is my mother. I mean, she's 85, 86 years old. Human being. perfect tenant, as I've explained. They have no problem interacting with her. I guess I guess they don't know how to do business deals, but they own the apartment. Maybe they didn't make the deal. That'd be a good. I'd have to think about that more, but that'd be an interesting law. The idea that one cannot own something unless one has actually made the deal for it. I mean, that's obviously, there's no way to systematize that. But what I'm getting at is this is also, a fair bit of self-consciousness, sort of like rich white guy guilt combined, with the fact that I'm a landlord myself. And, and I was watching this Prince Andrew documentary and talking about how this kind of condition of having had everything done for you your whole life. Trump. And then you're finally see Prince Andrew. They were wondering. It was an interesting line. What is it going to happen? What kinds of thoughts is he going to have when it is actually time for him to think for himself? I mean, is this really a wise idea? So the reason I go into that kind of parentheses is that it's just not really, it doesn't seem to be the behavior of the owner of a piece of real property to, and they told her that they were going to start showing the apartment this week. What planet are you living on? You get it. So you send a rent increase, and then you get a counter offer back, and then your response is, okay, we're going to start showing the apartment. After you write like some kind of love letter or journal entry. Business is not about journaling or texting or emailing or whatever. I mean, business is real, in person. I mean, if we want to make a business deal, come on. First, we've got to sit down and have a beer first. That's number one. We've got to at least prove to each other that we are willing to spend, each of us, to the other person, $10 for the other person's beer and 1 hour of our time for a couple of bad jokes. And a laugh. But no. Text. Maybe it's ChatGPT. Maybe they said, write my tenant, this old lady, write my tenant a list of all the reasons why we have umbrage about her. ChatGPT, go. One of my subcomponent theories is the idea that if you compare now reading a book, staring at a screen, having a person in front of you, what is the difference on the one hand between staring at text, staring at SMS text, staring at a character of text or a pixel of text, a surface in front of you, any bare surface in front of you of any color or a combination of colors, like this. Text. See there? But this, when I just go through and I look through my text, this is a solitary experience. I have no illusions that actually I'm speaking to. I'm wondering if my monthly income report has a if it's conscious in some way, if you're like David Chalmers, or if it's actual, because it looks really, it looks like really organized. I wonder if it's thinking. You wonder if text is thinking? When you sit in front of text, whether you're writing it or reading it, or you're LLMing it, it's solipsistic. Solipsistic. In the sense of immunity to error by misidentification, Wittgenstein and so on. It's impossible to doubt things like pain. Forget cogito ergo sum. It's ponos, pain, ergo sum. I'm in pain therefore I am. Ouch. That's the most universal word that is the concept that is the word, and universal exclamation about a universal intuition. The word ouch exclamation point is just about as Kantian of a unity as I've ever run into. Ouch. In conjunction with, as supplemental text, voice, in person, sender, addressee. If there's a real-time rhythm but then you just get on the phone anyway. And there's also must be real, and this is kind of spooky, I shouldn't say spooky, but look, the idea that neural capacities and cumulative, Euclidean scaffolding in the Hegelian sense. If we say like Hegel-Euclid, right? Hegel-Euclid, okay, like your life is basically Hegel-Euclid object. A Hegelian Euclidean object. It's like a real-time self-axiomatizing monolithic block of continuity. Yeah, it's not a bad description. Objectivity requires semantic traction with other living speakers by way of arguments along the lines of intersubjectivity. So we're talking about Davidsonian, pragmatic coherentism. Epistemic coherentism. Roughly Neo-Davidsonian. I mean, my teacher is Neo-Davidsonian, Higginbotham, so I speak in humble conservative terms epistemically as much as I can, and that seems humble and conservative to an appropriate degree. The intersubjectivity standard. I mean, I don't know if it's who gets really the credit for it. Maybe it's Thomas Kuhn. I don't know. Intersubjectivity. That's all we've got, people. That's the foundation. Intersubjectivity. It means that I talk and then you talk, and then I talk and then you talk. Dialectic. That's what it used to be called. Still is. But dialectic is two-person intersubjectivity. So if you don't, if you have a fork in the road where you've got a solipsistic subjective path and an objective, a social intersubjective objective path. So one is just purely subjective, even though you're living in a world, a kind of monadic world of like alienated forces where there's no real communication happening. There's just automation and bumping into of forces. There's no actual interaction. There's no actual real dialectic. Exchange of ideas reciprocally between two speakers of an agreed upon language. So the experience now typing SMS text, typing email, typing to your LLM, all that's happening is you're just reflecting yourself back to yourself. That's all. Unless you have a human being in front of yourself, and this doesn't count. Broadcasting to the world, this is just totally solipsistic. I mean, this is the voice version of the text thing. I'm just lazy. I don't want to read emails and stuff. So the difference here is, I mean, I guess it's threatening. It's threatening, the idea that somebody would actually call me on the phone or actually say, hey, Dimitri, I'm in Sunset Park. Let's go meet at Mama Tried or whatever, right? The soul ipsi really runs the risk of fragmenting the human experience into kind of monadic nodes that can be accounted for. I mean, we're really talking about Keanu Reeves shit.